When I read the gospel, getting ready for this, it brought back to mind a time when I was in high school, like 10th grade. And my younger brother and I were sailing on this lake near Baton Rouge, a large oxbow lake, about 10 miles long, a mile wide. And it was just real calm, and we were on the opposite side of the lake, and all of a sudden this thunderstorm comes up, and the wind starts howling, and the waves pick up, and we were just flying across that lake. And we have a rooster tail coming up from the stern because we're going so fast, and there's a loud hum coming from the centerboard as it's slicing through the water. And it's like, before we knew it, a couple of minutes, we're at the other side of the lake, and I have to turn around. And so I pushed the tiller to turn around and to take the boat into the wind, and in a blink of an eye, we capsized. And then, so the boat was like 20 feet long, so a big surface area up there, and the wind blew the side of the boat upside down. So they call it turtle. So we're turtled there and said, oh my gosh. And then the bow started to sink. And so we're holding on to the last 6 feet or so of the boat that's sticking up. And be honest with you, at that moment, my brother and I were a little bit worried. And so when I read today's gospel, it says, I can relate with those apostles. I understand that why they were anxious and worried. But Jesus woke up and he calmed the storm, And then he challenged their faith. He says, why were you terrified? I'm here with you. And the message is, I'm sure the apostles were stunned with all that was going on there, but the message is, if Jesus is with you, no matter what the storm in your life is, you can handle it. Our first reading is about faith too, incredible faith of Abraham. So Abraham's an old man, like maybe a couple of years older than me now, and then he's living in Ur. So it's a little town at the northern end of the Persian Gulf in what we think of as Iraq. And God says, I want you to go to the land of Canaan. Well, he'd never been there. He didn't know what it's like. He didn't know if there's people that would be fighting him there. But he trusted God. And so he took his wife, his two brothers, a sister-in-law, and a niece, and whatever flocks and stuff that he had, and he went off to the land of Canaan. He trusted that God said, go there, so he's going to go there. And it wasn't a short trip. It was like 600-700 miles on foot with everything you own. And so he's there a couple of years, and God says, I'm going to make you the father of a great nation, and your descendants will be as numerous as the stars in the sky. Well, Abraham's pushing 100, and his wife's not far behind him. And Abraham doesn't know how God's going to do it, but he trusts, just like, he said, come to Canaan, it'll be okay. And he went there, so I'm trusting God here. He'll make me father of a great nation. And then so many years later, he has Isaac. And so Abraham's got to be saying to himself, God fulfills his promises, We've got Isaac here, and we're on our way to this, great fatherhood of Abraham. And then when Isaac turns 12, he says, okay, I want you to take Isaac to Mount Moriah. That's what we think of the hill where Jerusalem was on, and I want you to sacrifice him. And Abraham didn't hesitate. He had faith in God. God said, do it, he'd do it. And he must have reasoned in his mind somehow that God would be able to raise Isaac up from the dead, and God would keep fulfilling his promise of making Abraham the father of many nations and children as numerous as the sky. Abraham's faith was amazing. You can see why the Jews had such awe for Abraham. And we all have storms in our lives. You have a child that's sick, or God forbid, a child that had died, a spouse that dies, or parents that die, loss of a job, a home that burns down, a home that floods, a home that's blown away, from a hurricane. And the list goes on and on and on. There's lots and lots of storms that come into our lives. And I think Jesus' message to us is that we need to have faith in him. Just the way Abraham had tremendous faith in God. and realize that God is always with us. He's always watching over us. And there's no storm in our life that he can't put out, and he can't calm. And so the message is faith, strong faith in God.